and still after that. The revolt was extremely short-lived, and the guild leaders were of course members also of the central government, so they just had to repress very violently this revolt because, you know, the guilds, the merchants and the chief of the guild were allied with the municipal officials, and they restored order very soon. All those revolts end like that, like nothing changed, or nothing happened. And people had, well, at least they were able to express their anger and frustration. Living conditions in the countryside were not more brilliant, and all across Northern Europe, peasants were resentful. They hoped they would gain some things from the epidemic: larger lands, more money, a better price on the foodstuff. But actually what happened was an increasing dependence on the landlords. So actually the opposite. And very soon, so the rents were still very high for the peasants who were not landowners. And soon, very soon, the price of food decreased, so they were not able to make a lot of money out of food production. They were very frustrated. And as usual, taxes and just more general anger. So in France, the Jacquerie was the name of the revolt. It started in 1358, and that is really very much tied to the Hundred Years' War. So in 1356, the King of France was captured in battle, you remember, and everybody was expected to pay the ransom. Though, originally, if you read your notes on week 2, it is the duty of a vassal to pay the ransom of his lord. And of a vassal, so not the peasants, not the dependents. So in theory, if just the nobility should have paid for the king's ransom. But the king's council decided that everybody would pay, and the estate generals actually voted yes. But not everybody was very happy. And other factors of resentment caused the peasants in northern France to revolt in 1358. This revolt was repressed by the local nobility. They just slaughtered the peasants who had revolted, and that was the end of it in a few months. So it was again a very short-lived uprising. There were other kind of revolts like that in southern France for similar reasons: devastation of the 100 Years' War, more taxes, the nobility was very unfair, but they were suppressed in the same way. So I'm actually not doing this in a chronological order because it will be Jacquerie, then the Ciompi, and then the Peasants' Revolt that happened in 1381 in England. Surprisingly, maybe, there was no revolt in England despite the statute of the laborers that were proclaimed in 1351. The statutes of the laborers is a royal decree, so dated from 1351, that froze rural rents artificially high levels and urban wages at artificially low levels. This freeze really angered people, but their resentment was not showed at the beginning. We have some letters of people complaining to the king and to the parliament, but there was no revolt. What again triggered the revolt was a series of poll taxes that were voted by the parliament in 1377, 1378, and 1381. So 3 consecutive poll taxes voted by the parliament. the thing with poll taxes is that they are extremely unfair. It is one amount of money that is due by everyone, regardless of income. It's not like income tax that is really based on what you're making. So it is fair. Everybody paying a share that he or she can support. But a poll tax, it's maybe, let's say, £1 by person. So for the rich people, it's just like nothing. But for very poor people, it can represent 1 month's salary, for instance, or maybe more. So it's extremely unfair because it's not putting the same burden on everyone. And this tax was voted so in 77, 78, and 81. So people could not just, it was constant. In May 1981, peasants of southern England began a mass protest known as the Peasant Revolt. And it's not just a protest, it could be very violent. Crowds of angry peasants marched on manorial houses, burning local courts, tax records, attacking royal officials, trying to kill and slaughter the local nobility. They converged on London and entered London on June 13 that year, so 1381. They actually besieged the royal officials in the Tower of London, still the Tower of London very important, and they began to plunder the city. Finally, the king accepted to meet with them and talk with them about this major issue. They met outside of London with a young King Richard, and the king promised to respect all their demands and that they would obtain whatever they want, that they would stop the riot. So he promised to keep what promise? So the promise were, well, the peasants wanted the abolition of serfdom and an immediate decrease in rent. And it seems fair. And the king promised to do that. And as you can guess, he never did. But because he just had made that promise, people stopped rioting and went back home. The remainder of people were still not happy, were just killed. The leader of the revolt was put to death, and then nothing happened. Because the king never abolished serfdom nor decreased rents.
Was that Richard III?
Second.
Second.
Similar revolts, as I said, took place in southern France, in Germany, in Spain, in Sweden, so a little bit everywhere in Europe. And a little bit everywhere in Europe, they were just followed by nothing. The Middle Ages were society very that really valued social order and the fact that all privileges should be maintained and protected, and things should not change. So the response to that kind of uprisings was usually repression, brutality, so that things could go back to normal. And conditions would improve more by themselves rather than by governments, because governments were still protecting the nobility and the elite. So it was an unfair society that was trying to protect this unfairness. So usually revolts like that were just followed by just nothing. Another byproduct of the plague could be a bit surprising at first, but it is actually very inexplainable at the time. And we'll read a short text by Jean de Denette, Parisian Chronicle